Hey all, I'm gonna run a quick GameMaker tutorial on making asteroids here. I'm certainly not the only person to write a tutorial video for making asteroids in GameMaker, so other people have other techniques. Mine may be similar to some others, it may have some differences. Primarily, the difference for me is that I'm going to use the visual version of GameMaker Lang. So, I'm creating a new game. It's a new blank game. I'm going to call it Asteroids Clone. And I'm going to hit Let's Go. Okay, and in here we're going to need a room. Great, we've got a room. That's good. We should look at our room. I like my Asteroids room to be square. So we're going to go with 800 by 800 here. Usual controls apply, so shift and mouse wheel to move over, control and click, or control and mouse move either way to get it down, control enter to reset your zoom, whatevs. First things first here, for my Asteroids game, I'm going to need some sprites. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to create a sprite. My sprite here is going to be, what the heck, we can go, I don't think I need it this big. I'm going to go with 32 by 32 here. And, okay, so we're going to hit edit on our image here. And our image, we just want to make a little polygon. I'm going to do a filled polygon. We're going to go from here to here to here. Oops, that wasn't quite symmetric. Let's see. I guess I need to go to there to make it symmetric. Yeah. The trouble's with an even size, I guess. And I want to make that fuchsia. I'm going to go in here to our pencil, and I'm going to erase some stuff. And I'm just going to give my ship a little shape. Oops. Too much. Oops, too much. Dang it. I wanted one more there. Why is the... Oh. I'm a buffoon. Alright, and one more dig in, I think. Maybe one more yet. Oops. I think that looks kind of like a ship. Let's see, am I real happy with that? I think I'm going to be happy with that. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and save our sprite here. That means we can just go back into our room. I think that looks pretty good for a ship sprite. Okay, so now we're going to get our ship in the room. So I'm going to close the sprite. I don't need to edit that anymore. In order to get the sprite in the room, I'm going to need to go in and create an object to kind of manipulate our sprite. So I'm going to call this obj ship. And we're going to select, we're going to use our ship sprite. Oh, that's a terrible name for that. So we're going to go in and rename that. That should be SPR underscore ship. Okay. And then we're going to go into our room. And we're going to drag our ship object into the center of the room. Oh, I need to change one thing. The thing I need to change is in ship sprite, I need to select handling from the middle center. So that's going to have me handling middle center ship. Okay, great. Now we're going to go back into our room, and we're going to plop this guy down in the center of the room. If you're having trouble finding the center of the room, you can just edit it here. Should be 400, 400 to have it actually appear in the center of my 800 by 800 room. We could zoom out a little bit and check that that's kind of working. Okay, so I've got my ship. Next, I need to be able to drive my ship around. So we're going to go into our workspace. I really prefer those in the other order. We're going to drag object ship in here. Then I'm going to hit, let's see, for our ship, I think we're going to want to do on step. And I'm going to select visual and tell it not to ask again for this project. You can certainly do this in GameMaker Lang if you want. And here I'm going to look for a key down method. And we're going to say if we're pressing the up arrow key, we should do some stuff. So the stuff that we're going to do, actually let's just set these out. So we're going to do up arrow key, left arrow key, and right arrow key. So if we're pressing the up key, I want to add some motion. So we're going to use the add motion. This is because we're trying to accelerate. So the direction we're going to go in is going to be the image angle direction. And the speed, I'm going to set it at 0.1, I think works fairly well. And then here we're going to assign some variables when we do key down. Make sure these are attaching to this back edge and not to the bottom. If they attach to the bottom, they'll look like this. That's not doing anything based on the key. That's just always going to happen. So if you want it to happen based on the key, it needs to be attached to the if statement. And then here, if we're holding left, we're going to do image angle. Oops. Image angle. And we want to do that. Let's see. I'm going to add like 3 degrees. And then I'm going to just go ahead and copy this and paste it and just attach it to the other if. And for that one, we're going to do -3 degrees. So now we should be able to drive our ship around. So let's check and see if that's working. So here we go. Left and right turn our ship. Forward starts us in the direction we're pointed. Should be noted, this thing doesn't have friction, which makes it real hard to drive, which is kind of the point of Asteroids. If you wanted to make it a little easier to control, a thing you might do is you can, in here, just look for friction. So there's a set friction. You want to attach that to the bottom so it always happens. We could set the friction to, I don't know, 0.5 or something. This will make it feel like you're kind of driving sticky. I always think of this as sticky and... Uh-oh. 0.5 might be too high. I can't move. Okay, let's set that to 0.1 and see what happens. Maybe we can move now. Nope, no movement still. Oh, it's because we're only increasing the speed by 0.1, so our friction is the same as our speed. So let's set it to 0.01. Okay, so now we can drive, but we'll gradually slow down. We could go ahead and set that a little higher to get it to slow down faster. Again, I think this is like a trait of Asteroids, is that it doesn't have this property. So you can see that this is a little bit wonky. You might notice that you can actually kind of drive in circles here by holding down 2 keys at once. I'm going to turn this off for right now. So the way you turn something off is you just hit Control and K while it's selected, and that'll kind of gray it out. So that's essentially commented out for anybody who's written like more serious computer code. Okay, so that's my ship. It's driving around. Great. Good. Cool. I'm going to need to add some stuff to that later. I said I was going to need a sprite for the ship. I feel like I've got the ship driving. So I think my next thing to do is going to be to create some sprites for the rocks. So we're going to do SPR, and we'll call this one Big Rock. Okay. And this one is going to be a 64 by 64 image. And I just need to kind of freehand-ish a rock here. So here's me kind of doing a crummy job of like freehanding a rock. And then I'm just going to go ahead and fill this thing. And I think a space rock ought to be blue. And I think that looks a little bit dorky, but I'm kind of happy enough with it. Okay, so I got my little blue splat here that we're going to be trying to avoid while driving around. And I think I'm more or less happy with the way this looks. Whatever. Okay, so then I'm going to go back into my workspace. I'm going to close the... Oh, I'm going to set it to handle by the middle. And then I'm going to close that guy. And then I'm going to go up here to my objects. And I'm going to right-click here and hit Create Object. And I'm going to make an OBJ rock. Notice I'm not making OBJ big rock. I'm just going to make OBJ rock. Because rocks are going to come in two kinds. They're either going to be big or small. And that's just going to depend on which sprite we're using. I'm going to start these out when they're created with the big rock sprite. And we're just leaving the collision mask the same as the sprite. I'm not going to do anything with this right now. I'm going to go in here and drag some rocks onto my screen. We'll just start with like 5. And then we're going to go ahead and run this. And those should just chill there. So we should get some rocks chilling. It's kind of dumb to me that these are all like exactly the same. They're all pointed in the same direction. So I'm going to go into my workspace here. We can close that sprite. We don't need that. I'm going to hit add an event. And I'm going to hit add a create event. So here I'm looking at what happens when I create my rock. Well, what happens when I create a rock is I'm going to want to assign some variables. I'm also going to want to randomize some stuff. So I'm just going to go grab the randomize thing so that we're sure that we've randomized the seed for the game. And then I'm going to go in here and I'm going to set image angle to a value. And my value is going to be a random from the range of 0 up to 360 degrees. So that's just going to rotate all my rocks so they should each be kind of different. So let's check and make sure that's working. So we should get rocks. Uh-oh. All of those ended up with the same angle, which I don't like. The way randomize works in GameMaker is a little friggin' weird, honestly. So here's the issue with this. This randomize doesn't actually work. When I hit run, I get a couple rocks that are the same and maybe some different ones, but I often get several that are the same. This is a little annoying. Like, this behavior is extremely annoying. Like, these 4 rocks are all exactly the same rotation and that one's different. So my advice for you on this is you really ought to be calling the randomize function once. So I'm going to delete it from here. I'm going to go up into my ship. I'm going to create a I'm going to get a create event going in that ship. And I'm going to drag the randomize in here. This means that I'm only calling this randomize function once. And that function now should generate random numbers in these other ones. It's a little weird that it doesn't work well if you call the randomize function multiple times. But here we go. Now they're all in different places. Awesome. So I've got my rocks. They're all rotated a little bit differently to start with. That's good. Now we want to start them kind of moving in a random direction. So we're going to go with set, and we're looking for a direction variable. So let's go ahead and set the direction variable. And I want my direction variable to also be a random. And we're going to want this also to go between 0 and 360. And then we're going to go ahead and set a oops, not an animation value, but a speed. Let's see, so let's look for speed here. So we're going to look for set speed, and we're going to set that in the direction that the image is pointed, and we're going to set this to another random variable, and I'm going to make my speeds between 2 and 5. All right, let's see this in action. Okay, those went real quick off the screen, and they're not tumbling. So I kind of want some stuff to happen. One, I want them to tumble a little bit. Two, I'd like them to stay on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead here and add a step event. So this step is just every time the code or every time the screen refreshes, the step event is run. So in my step event, I'm going to want to do a couple of things. So first thing here, I'm going to look for wrap. And I'm just going to say wrap around the room. Let's see. Those images were 64 by 64. So I'm going to set the margin to 64. So that means that they'll kind of go all the way off screen before returning on any of the other sides. And then in here, I'm going to want a variable assignment. And the variable that I'm going to assign is I'm going to assign the image angle here. And we're just going to add 1 to my image angle or 2 to my image angle. So all my rocks will tumble a little bit. So let's hit run on that. And we should get rocks that rotate a little bit and kind of wrap off the screen. So we can see that, like, this guy, as he leaves the screen here, ought to be coming back up there. So we've got some rocks wrapping the screen. This feels pretty good, actually. Like, I'm not real unhappy with this. I do think that having them all be the exact same sprite may have been a mistake, but whatever. Okay, so I've got my rocks moving. I've got my ship moving. Now I'm going to need some bullets. So I'm going to make another sprite here. Let's see. So right-clicking in here, I can hit create a sprite. This is going to be SPR underscore bullet. Okay, and our bullet sprite, we're just going to make this a 5 by 5. Yep. So we're going to hit apply there. I'm going to get a real small image. We're going to hit edit. And I just want to make this a bullet. Let's see. So I guess I had a pink ship and blue rocks. So what the hell? We're going to go with a red bullet. And I'm just going to put just a splash of... Oops. I'm going to put just a splash of color in the middle of that, just for funsies. Again, it's just a sprite. You can make your own sprite. Again, here, I want to set this to handle by the middle center. Great. That's all I should need from that sprite. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to make another object. So we're going to go in here. We're going to create. And the thing I'm going to create is an object. And this is going to be obj underscore bullet. And this guy's going to use the bullet sprite. Okay, great. Now we're going to need to create some bullets. So the way we're going to create bullets is in our step. Oop, Jiminy Christmas, I hate that. Control Enter resets your zoom if you do that same thing. All right, so we're going to be looking in our... So right now I'm in the ship and I'm in the step event. And then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to add here. I'm going to want an if, and I'm going to want a if mouse down. So if they press the left mouse button, then what do we want to do? So what I want to do is I want to create an instance. And the instance I want to create is going to be a bullet. And we're going to create it at the relative position. So that's going to be the relative position of the thing creating it. Let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see if we can create some bullets or not. So now, wow, ship has a problem. My ship has a real problem. So my ship went away, and now I don't know where it is because it doesn't wrap the room. So let's put a room wrapper in here. So we're gonna use a wrap around the room here. And that's just going to cause our ship to wrap. And our ship is 32 by 32, so I'm going to use a 16 wrapper margin. So here we go. Ship. I can lay some bullets, and now I'm wrapping the room as well as the rocks are. Asteroids is actually kind of legit a hard game to control. Like, no lie. Okay, so now that we've got bullets going out, we need to create some movement in our bullets. So here, oops, let's see. We want to be in the workspace. I don't need the sprite. All right, we're going to go look for our bullet sprite, and we're going to do an add event. And on our create event here, we're going to want to do two things. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set the speed. And we're going to set it in the direction that it's moving. And I'm going to set my bullets to go 10 units. And then we're going to want to get the direction. So we're going to do, we're going to need an assign variable here. And the variable we want to assign is the direction built in. And the value is going to be a little confusing. So we're going to do obj underscore ship. Oops. I keep I keep hitting tab to complete instead of enter to complete. All right, so we're going to do obj ship dot image angle. So that's going to get the image angle from the ship and send our bullet in that direction. And then we're going to go ahead and run this to see that we've got some stuff running. So now we should be, okay, we've got little bullets that way, little bullets that way. I'm thinking I probably have picked the wrong event for this because these seem a little bit much. I think that instead of using mouse down, I probably should have used mouse pressed. So let's look and see what our options are for mouse stuff. So mouse. So mouse released, mouse pressed. Okay, so we're going to add mouse pressed, and I'm going to put this create instance into that guy, and we'll delete mouse down. So let's try that. Okay, that's a lot better. So that's down to 1 bullet per click as opposed to every like 60th of a second generating a bullet. So cool. We got bullets, we got asteroids. Let's go ahead and make our second asteroid sprite. So I'm just going to go in here, I'm going to hit create sprite. This is going to be SPR underscore small rock. Okay, and then here we're going to go ahead and we're going to edit this. So our big rock was 64 by 64, so this one's going to be 32 by 32. And apply, we're going to edit our image. And I'm just going to kind of freeform a rock here. Let's see, and some of this I'm not the happiest with. Like, I don't really like that. I think that part needed to be a little more serious. Yeah, I think that'll work, give or take. Not the biggest fan of the way some of these corners look, but we'll give her a go. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and paint fill, and these guys are going to be yellow for some reason. And then I'm just going to go ahead and color a little bit here with a yellow pen to clean this guy up. Okay. And I'm not sure how I feel about this white outline, but we'll let it be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close that. I got my kind of gnarly looking rock there. And then I'm not going to create any of those rocks. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into workspace. I don't need this sprite anymore. And we've got our obj rock. We're going to need to add a collision event with the obj bullet object. Okay, so here's our obj bullet. And we're going to need to do a couple of things. So we're going to need to do if variable. So our variable is going to be image. It's going to be sprite index. So if sprite index is equal to, and our value here needs to be SPR underscore big rock. So if our sprite is the big rock, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to do a sprite set. Oops. Sprite set. So we're going to set a sprite. We're going to set the sprite to small rock. And we're just going to go ahead and try this out. So let's hit run. And now it should be that if I manage to shoot a rock, it ought to turn into a small rock. Awesome. That's cool. That's working. Okay. So right now, that's literally just replacing a big rock sprite with a small rock sprite. So we're going to want to do a couple more things. So one of the things here that we're going to want to make a second small rock. And the easy way to do that seems to be to look in here for a function call. And the function we want to call is instance underscore copy. And we just want to give that an argument of true to make this work. And that's going to go ahead and create another small rock. So we're setting our big rock sprite to a small rock. So now we kind of have a small rockish object, and then we want to go ahead and copy that thing. So if we hit run here, we should see that if we shoot one of these guys with a bullet, we should get 2 small rocks. And then shooting small rocks has no effect at all. So what we want to do is we want to get there to be an effect on small rocks. So essentially here, we're just going to copy our same logic, right? So we've got our if the sprite index is a big rock, then we'll do this stuff. And otherwise, if the sprite index, dang it. It's not how you spell sprite, Joe. So if the sprite index is SPR underscore small rock, then what we want to do is we'll want to destroy our instance. So we'll just destroy the instance. So that's going to destroy whichever rock we're talking about. And that's a spot where we'll want to add to the score. Right, so let's see if this works first. So here we should have shooting rocks, nothing's hitting. Okay, great. It would help if I didn't suck at playing Asteroids. Okay, so let's see. We just need to zap this guy. Okay, and I'm noticing there's a little bit of a problem. It does seem like the small rocks are kind of always going away. And the issue with that is that when I create another rock right there, that bullet that just hit it automatically destroys it. So I want to do, in either of these cases, I need to do a destroy instance. And the thing is, the destroy I want to do is on the other object there. So here we're going to do another destroy instance. So we're going to do, this bottom one is destroying self, and the top one is destroying other. So the self is the rock that's getting destroyed, and the other is the bullet that killed the rock to start with. So here now, I should see, I'm not getting the behavior I want here. So I've got a little logic error problem. So let's talk about resolving a logic error. So here I've got this issue where when I shoot a rock, only one of the little baby rocks is appearing. And I think it's literally because the bullet is essentially hitting them both. So here's what I'm thinking to fix it. This destroy instance works on other. This whole thing only happens when there's a collision between a bullet and a rock. So I should always want to destroy the bullet. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to put that first. So the bullet's going to get nixed first. Then, if it's the big rock, I want to set the sprite to the small rock and then copy it. I think I'm down with that. I think these guys are kind of causing me trouble. So this if variable, I think that's really causing me an issue. So I'm going to remove that. And I'm going to search here for an else. So, because the only other option for the sprite index is that it be the small rock. So, if it's the big rock, great, we'll do some stuff. If it's the small rock, then we'll need to do something else. So, the something else that I want to do is I'm going to want to destroy the instance of the rock. And this is where I would want to add a point to my score or something. So, let's hit run on this. And now, yep, I think I've got my little rocks are doubling up. And then I think I really only have the I've got a couple kind of quality of life things I can add to this. The one thing I really want to add to this game is that I really, really want the ship to be destroyed if it hits a rock. So that's my kind of last thing I'm going to add tonight. And then I'll make another video with a couple more things. So I'm going to go up here to ship. I'm going to hit add event. And I'm going to hit collision objects object rock. And then all that I need to do in here is I'm just going to grab a destroy instance and drop it in. We're just going to destroy the ship. That's it. Nothing else. We could display a game over message or something. But like fundamentally, I just want to destroy the ship. Ship's destroyed. Game's over. Great. We'll add that game over functionality next time, but I think this video is running a little long. Thanks, guys. I will see you on the next one.